by the Montana Television Network. Montana This Morning continues on Montana's News Leader.
It's the first day on the job for Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. I'm Laura Podesta. I'll tell you why some Democrats say he can't breathe easy on the bench just yet.
It turns out the golden value of the Yellowstone River more valuable than any gold found in those mountains. I'm Chet Lehman. Coming up today, Ryan Zinke, Secretary of the Interior, signing an order to make sure the gold stays in those mountains.
I'm John Shearer in Paradise Valley. Coming up, find out why Lucky Minerals says these mountains are the perfect place for a mine and do not endanger Yellowstone National Park.
We'll have that two-part story from Paradise Valley's announcement yesterday coming up in a moment. Meantime, our top national story this hour. Today, Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh will hear his first argument as a member of the nation's High Court. CBS News' Laura Podesta reports on what else Justice Kavanaugh can expect his first week on the job.
Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh starts his work at the nation's highest court today. Last night, during a ceremonial swearing in at the White House, President Trump apologized for the partisan fighting that led up to his confirmation.
What happened to the Kavanaugh family violates every notion of fairness, decency, and due process.
The newest member of the Supreme Court will begin his official work by hearing arguments in a handful of cases, among them longer prison terms for repeat offenders and Homeland Security's authority to detain certain immigrants here illegally.
My goal is to be a great justice for all Americans.
But it's unclear if Kavanaugh can rest easy on the bench. The top Democrat in the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, said she would file a Freedom of Information Act on what was in the FBI supplemental background investigation into Kavanaugh. The results could be made public before the midterms, though Republicans don't seem to be concerned about how the investigation could impact the election.
What I think this has done for us is provide the kind of adrenaline shot that we had not been able to figure out how to achieve in any other way.
Meantime, Kavanaugh's newly hired law clerks are all women, a first for a Supreme Court justice. Laura Podesta, CBS News, New York.
Now, in his remarks at the White House last night, Kavanaugh said he held no bitterness over the confirmation fight during which he was accused of sexual assault by 3 separate women. Right now, 6:32, Matt. The wind continues to blow here in tropical Four Corners, and it sounds to me like it's not going to blow in anything super positive unless you like cold moisture.
Yeah, and that's pretty well on tap. We are looking at some pretty windy conditions. Temperature's not overly cold, but you factor in that wind and the wind chill. Yeah, it makes a bit of a difference, that's for sure. That moisture continues to work its way in. We've had some reports of rain in Butte, some snow in Dillon. I think it's just going to be widely scattered. There's a little wind at MSU campus. It's fairly windy this morning. Our temperatures will really hold into the mid to upper 30s. Wet roadways in Butte this morning. That'll continue into the afternoon. We'll talk about the timing of all this and what to expect tomorrow morning. For the afternoon, we've got it all for you coming up in just a few minutes.
Warm soup, it's what's for dinner. Yeah, there we go, 6:32 now. There are places to mine gold, but the border of Yellowstone National Park is now one of them. That's the message from Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke, signing a 20-year moratorium on mining near the park.
Those girls running down the trail because I can barely walk.
Far from the turmoil of Washington, D.C., Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke gathered with several members of the Yellowstone Gateway Business Coalition, not far from where a proposed gold mine would have been.
Public lands is not a Republican or a Democrat issue, it's an American issue. And there are some things that are more important than politics.
Those gathered pointed to the importance of nearby Yellowstone National Park and the Yellowstone River downstream from this gathering. Secretary Zinke declared this place special.
I graduated with a degree in geology and I'm a pro-mining guy. I love hard rock, but there's places to mine and there's places not to mine. And you have to look at the American conservation ethic of best science, best practices, greatest good, longest term.
All the work completed today focusing on this, the Yellowstone River, but it didn't just happen overnight. In fact, when Ryan Zinke first became involved in this, he was Congressman Zinke. Today, signing it as Secretary of the Interior, Zinke, using what he says is the full power of his office.
Today, we're going to put at peace, within the extent of my power as the Secretary of Interior, a 20-year moratorium. If I could make it permanent, I would. Following described National Forest System lands are hereby withdrawn from location and entry under the United States mining laws. Signed, Ryan Zinke, Secretary of Interior.
Zinke noted a permanent decision would have to come from Congress. Now, people living near the park, including businesses and the Interior Secretary, all seemed happy with the mining moratorium, but not everyone is overjoyed. MTN's John Shearer reports the CEO of the mining company that wants to exploit gold and copper deposits in the nearby mountains is deeply disappointed.
Lucky Minerals' website says it believes its Immigrant Creek project could hold a multi-million-ounce gold deposit.
The surface indications are strong enough to indicate that a large mine is possible.
I graduated with a degree in geology, and I'm a pro-mining guy.
But not in Paradise Valley.
But there's places to mine, and there's places not to mine.
Everybody is going to think that their favorite place shouldn't be mined.
This isn't just my backyard or our backyard. It's America's backyard.
Interior Secretary Zinke makes the argument that this valley is too beautiful, too pristine to host a mine. But Lucky Minerals' John Mears says there's already an exception to that logic.
We're not really on the edge of Yellowstone National Park. We're 25 air miles away from the park. We're no closer to the park than Stillwater mining is.
The Stillwater is a platinum mine south of Big Timber. But for Zinke and other opponents of mining near Immigrant, the location so close to the Yellowstone River is just as important. Mears claims there is no danger.
New technology allows us to have methods and processes that won't harm the environment. We have plenty of engineering controls that go into the process of mining.
And he sees no conflict between mining and the tourism industry.
I believe that we represent high-paying jobs that are much better paying than the average wage in the valley. We represent economic opportunity for people here beyond the tourist industry.
That gamble on a big mining payoff is one residents of Paradise Valley have clearly rejected. So has Secretary Zinke.
I don't see a path forward.
I'm John Shearer in Paradise Valley for MTN News.
Now, Mears claims Zinke has refused to meet with him. The secretary says he's happy to meet with any citizen, but hasn't confirmed a meeting with Mears or with Lucky Minerals. Back here in the Gallup Valley, President Waded Cruzado says MSU will be building a state-of-the-art American Indian Hall. This was announced at the Indigenous Peoples Day celebration yesterday. It was made possible by the Kendeda Fund that's committed a $12 million lead gift for the $20 million project. Excitement filled the air after the announcement.
As soon as I heard the news, I almost started crying. I'm not even kidding. I was so surprised. I was amazed. I was excited. You know, it's just so extremely, like, I can't even explain to you the emotions I feel. Exciting. It's awesome. It's amazing.
Now, Dr. Cruzado said expecting the building to open by fall of 2021. And in a crowded craft brewing industry, one Treasure State company manages to stand out. Lewis & Clark Brewing Company started in the capital city more than a decade ago and has come to gain national recognition. MTN's Jacob Fuhrer shows us this Montana-made business continues to expand and one day could be seen on shelves around the globe.
When you first start to mash in, and that's where you're taking the malted barley and you've ground it up and now you're going to mix it with water in what's called the mash tun or the lauter tun. The smells that generates in the morning are something that even to this day I still just walk through the brewery and stop once in a while and take a big whiff and say, wow, this is why I do what I do.
Lewis & Clark Brewery owner Max Pigman took over Sleeping Giant Brewery 16 years ago, renaming it Lewis & Clark after the county and the famous explorers. But his interest in brewing started outside U.S. borders.
I was stationed in the military. I was in the Air Force over in Japan and had a hard time finding good beers. And so I started home brewing here in Helena. and that's where it all came from.
What started at home has grown into a sprawling factory with state-of-the-art equipment pumping out some of Lewis & Clark's most popular brews like Miner's Gold and Prickly Pear Pale Ale.
The best thing about it is the qualities.
As craft brewing took off, Lewis & Clark rode the wave, switching from bottles to cans and seeing dramatic increases in sales. Last year, the brewery added a $9 million expansion, increasing production 6 times over.
Now the summer months are very important to Lewis & Clark. It's when they do about 50% of their business. To give you an idea, all of these kegs here are empty. They've come back from restaurants in Montana in just the last 2 weeks.
But as the scale increases, the familiar taste, Max assures us, stays the same. The brewery took home multiple awards recently at a competition in Denver. 3 of the medaling beers were made in the expanded brewery.
The beer that we're putting out at this point really has the quality that the judges are saying, hey, this is really good beer.
What makes it so special? Pigman points to Montana's amber waves of grain.
Being able to utilize some of the best malted barley in the world, which is grown just north of us, up in the Golden Triangle, and malted just north of us, up just above Great Falls there, is a huge advantage.
Pigman finds other ways to draw in customers in what's becoming a crowded craft brewing scene.
We've got a plan of bringing out a new seasonal beer about every 6 weeks now.
This month, a seasonal pumpkin brew entices customers. Recently, Pigman also allowed customers to start buying beer with the digital currency Bitcoin. Anything to keep things fresh, a strategy that's paying off.
Here we are, almost 17 years later, and it's beyond my wildest dreams, and it's just really a blessing. It actually tastes really good.
As for what's next for the brewery, well, it might be international. Max says he's already traveled to Japan to talk with some interested clients. Reporting from Helena, Jacob Fuhrer, MTN News.
Jacob tells us Lewis & Clark currently distributes to all of Montana, Idaho, and eastern Washington, and the beer will soon be available in Wyoming. We're going to take a quick break here on Montana This Morning. When we come back, we're exactly 1 month away from the election. This morning, Dr. David Parker sits down with Kathleen Williams, the Democratic challenger for the U.S. House, to talk about her campaign. And then at 7 this morning.
Good morning to you. Ahead on CBS This Morning, we're in Panama City Beach, Florida, as people evacuate ahead of Hurricane Michael's expected landfall tomorrow in the Panhandle. Also, how digital AI assistants like Alexa and Siri are expected to change us and their potential impact on your kids. And in our Note to Self series, a letter from Alex Honnold about what it took to become the only person to climb Yosemite's El Capitan without ropes or safety gear. We'll see you at 7 o'clock. Straight up. Back to you guys in the studio.